Hey, what's up, everyone? I dug up 6 of the creepy Reddit threads on the internet for you. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Let's get into it. And if these stories pull you in, come join the LostFootage Club, our private community where members share their own disturbing finds. The link is in the description. A hiking app added a 4th set of footprints to my solo trail, and I think I finally know why. Some glitches aren't glitches. I'm 36, I work as a physical therapist in a small mountain town, and every Sunday for the last 6 years I've hiked the same loop alone. My partner Paige knows it's sacred. She doesn't ask to come. After a week of bending over other people's spines, I need the quiet, the switchbacks, the smell of wet pine. It's the only thing that resets me. I use a niche tracking app. I won't name it because the developer is 2 guys in a garage and I don't want to dogpile them. The pitch is simple. It records your GPS line and then it overlays community-tagged prints from anyone who's hiked nearby in the last month. Animal prints, boot prints, bike tires. You can see the elk that crossed your path an hour before you, the dog that ran ahead of its owner. It's beautiful, honestly. It makes you feel less alone without anyone actually being there. 2 Sundays ago, I came home, kicked off my boots, and pulled up the map the way I always do. There was my line. There were the usual deer tracks, and there was a 4th set of human prints walking right next to mine. Not crossing the trail, not joining for a stretch, parallel, the entire route, from the trailhead to the turnaround and back. I figured it was a couple who'd hiked behind me and the app had glitched the spacing, so I zoomed in. They were barefoot, they were small, child-sized. She kept zooming, and here's the part I haven't been able to shake. The barefoot prints don't appear on the whole loop. They only show up on one stretch, maybe 1.5 miles, from the creek crossing to the big flat boulder where the trail bends north. That's the exact stretch my mother used to walk with me and my older sister Chloe when I was little. Picnics, wildflowers, her humming something I can't remember the words to anymore. My father told me she died when I was 6. We stopped going. Chloe and I drifted apart not long after, and we haven't really spoken in almost 20 years. I've hiked that loop hundreds of times as an adult. I have never told the app about my mother. I have never tagged anything on that stretch. The prints start at the creek, where she always made us take our shoes off to cross, and they stop at the boulder, where she always made us turn back because she said the trail past it wasn't safe for small feet. I showed Paige. She went very quiet and then said, gently, that it had to be a glitch. Some kid hiking with their family last weekend. Coincidence. I want to believe her, I really do, but the prints are the right size for a 6-year-old. And there are 2 sets of slightly bigger ones I didn't mention, walking just ahead. One adult, one child a little taller than the barefoot ones. The size Chloe would have been, the size our mother would have been. On to the next one. I want to back up and tell you about the trail before I tell you about this Sunday. My mother's name was Sophie. The clearest memories I have of her are on that 1.5 miles between the creek and the boulder. She'd spread a wool blanket on the flat rock and unpack peanut butter sandwiches cut into triangles. She hummed constantly. I cannot for the life of me remember the tune. I've tried. It's the kind of thing that sits just behind your teeth and refuses to come out. Chloe is 4 years older than me. On that blanket, she'd sit cross-legged behind me and braid my hair while our mother pointed out birds. Chloe was very serious about the braids. She'd undo them and start over if they weren't even. I remember the tug at my scalp more clearly than I remember my mother's face. I was 6 when my father sat me down at the kitchen table and told me she was gone. He didn't use the word died at first. He said she had to go away and she wasn't coming back. Later, it became died. There was no funeral I remember attending. There was no grave we visited. My father was a quiet, hard man, and when I asked questions as a teenager, he'd go somewhere behind his eyes, and I learned to stop asking. He passed 4 years ago. Chloe left for college when I was 14 and basically never came home. We send each other a text on birthdays. That's it. So that's the weight on that stretch of trail. That's why I told Paige in a kind of stumbling, embarrassed way, like I was confessing something. She listened the whole way through, then took my phone, looked at the map, and said what any reasonable partner would say. Glitch. Family hiking the same loop. The app stitching their data onto mine because the timestamps overlapped. She kissed the top of my head and made tea. I almost let it go. She went back anyway. This past Sunday, I hiked the loop again. I told myself I was testing the app. I was also testing something else, and I knew it. The weather was clean and cold. I didn't see another person the entire route. Not at the trailhead lot, which had only my car, not at the creek crossing, not at the boulder. I made a point of stopping every 10 minutes to listen. Wind, a woodpecker somewhere, nothing else. I sat on the boulder for a while before turning back, the way she used to make us. I'll be honest, I said her name out loud once. I felt ridiculous. Nothing answered. When I got home, I pulled up the map before I even took my jacket off. The barefoot prints were there again. Same stretch, creek to boulder. But this time, they weren't parallel to my line. They were closer. In a few sections, they overlapped my own track so exactly that the app was rendering them as a single, fatter line, and I had to zoom in to see the two were braided together. The two slightly larger sets, the adult and the older child, were there too, same as before. They walked ahead, they stopped at the boulder, they did not come back. Only the small barefoot set turned around with me. I sat on the floor of our entryway with my boots still on, and I had the worst feeling I've had in years. Not fear exactly, the feeling of being looked at from a direction you can't name. I went to every window in the house and closed the blinds, and I couldn't tell you why. I spent that night going through the app the way I'd go through a patient's chart, tab by tab. If you tap and hold any overlay print, you get a little metadata bubble. Timestamp, elevation, source. The animal prints say things like auto-detected, regional dataset. The boot prints from other hikers say user contribution, plus a username, usually some handle like Fernwalker42. That's how the community thing works. You hike, you upload, your prints become other people's overlay. The barefoot prints on my stretch were tagged as user contribution. They came from an account, not an algorithm, a person. I tapped the username field and it loaded for a second and then showed me only two letters, S.H. The rest was hidden behind a privacy toggle. My mother's name was Sophie. Her maiden name began with H. I sat there, staring at those two initials with my thumb over the screen, and I felt like I'd swallowed cold water. I want to be honest about where my head went. First place, my father faked something before he died. He was capable of cruel little jokes, and he had years to set something up. Second place, a stalker who knew enough about my family to pick those specific initials. Third place, the one I wouldn't let myself sit with, that my mother was alive somewhere and had been walking that 1.5 miles ahead of me for who knows how long. I skipped the hike the next Sunday. I stayed home, made pancakes, watched Paige garden. Around 4 in the afternoon, I opened the app, half a coward and half a scientist, and refreshed the trail. A fresh set of barefoot prints had been logged that morning, creek to boulder, without me. So she wrote it up and posted. That's when I made this account and started typing. I don't know what I'm hoping for. Validation, maybe. A rational explanation I haven't thought of. Someone to tell me I'm reading patterns into a coincidence. I'm going to email the developers tonight and ask them to look at the account behind those initials. I know it's a long shot. I know they probably won't tell me anything because of privacy rules. But I have to try, because the alternative is going up there next Sunday and waiting at the boulder to see who comes back down it, and I am not, currently, brave enough for that. Paige doesn't know I skipped the hike to watch the app. She thinks I just wanted a quiet day. I haven't shown her the initials yet. I will tonight. I keep rehearsing how to say it without sounding like I've lost the plot. If anyone here has used a community-tagged GPS app and seen something like this, please tell me it has a normal explanation. Please. A user named TrailMixLurker wrote, "The barefoot child-sized prints alone would have made me uninstall the app and burn my boots. Please tell me you contacted the developer." One commenter, Moss and Fern, said, "I'd be at my sister's door that same night." You said estranged. What was the original reason you stopped talking to her? Feels relevant. The poster responded with, "It's relevant in a way I'm only understanding now. Chloe kept insisting after the funeral that something was wrong, that the casket was closed for a reason. Our dad called her unstable, and I, being a kid, believed him. I stopped speaking to her properly at 19 because she wouldn't let it go. Turns out she may have been the only one telling the truth. 2 days later, she came back to the thread. The developer answered faster than I expected. A guy named Owen, very kind, very careful. I had explained in the email that I had safety concerns about a specific account overlaying my tracks, and I attached screenshots. He said because I could demonstrate the account was tracking my exact private routes, he was willing to share limited account info under their safety policy. He gave me 3 things. The account was created 16 years ago. The display name on file is Sophie H., spelled exactly the way my mother spelled it. The email on file is an old provider that barely exists anymore, but the address itself is one I recognize from a Christmas card in a shoebox in our garage. It's hers. It was hers. The 3rd thing is what made me sit down on the kitchen floor. The account has been actively logging in. Not from some ghost server, from a single phone, registered for the last 4 years to a number with a Denver area code. Owen couldn't legally give me the name on the device, but he did say, very gently, that the account holder had recently flagged my hikes as subject of interest in their own private notes. He said that field is usually used by parents tracking their kids. I called the Denver number from my car. A woman picked up on the 2nd ring and didn't say hello. She just breathed. I said, "Chloe." She said, "Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for a very long time." I asked her if our mother was alive. She said she was, until last spring. 16 years of footprints, and none of them were a ghost. I don't remember driving home. I remember Paige opening the door and the look on her face when she saw mine. I remember telling her everything in the wrong order and her not interrupting once. Chloe wants me to come see her tomorrow. She lives 40 minutes away. 40 minutes. She has lived 40 minutes from me for the last 6 years, and I didn't know because I stopped opening her birthday texts past hello. She told me on the phone that she didn't fake the prints to scare me. She said our mother started the account the year she left, to follow our hikes from a distance because she was not allowed to contact us directly. Chloe inherited the account when our mother got sick. She kept logging in because she didn't know how to stop. She said she always turned back at the boulder because that was where our mother told her she had to. I have not slept. I'm posting this from the car. I'm going to drive there in the morning. She told me she has a box for me. She wouldn't say what's in it. I'll update when I can. One comment pointed out, "The detail about your mom taking you on that exact stretch is what's wrecking me. That isn't a stalker. That's grief with a username." In the comments, someone wrote, "I work in GIS. Community overlay apps don't just hallucinate a 4th track that follows your exact line for miles. Someone is feeding that data in deliberately." A top comment reads, "Right, and the prints being barefoot and child-sized is the tell. Whoever uploaded that track manually edited the metadata. That's a message someone has been trying to send for a long time." The next morning, the promised update went up. I opened the box. I need to tell you what was inside. I drove the 40 minutes to Chloe's apartment with my hands at 10 and 2 like I was 16 again taking a road test. Paige offered to come. I asked her to let me do it alone. I think I needed the car to be quiet so I could hear myself when I got there. Chloe opened the door before I knocked. She is 40 now. She looks like our mother in a way I was not prepared for, around the eyes especially. She didn't hug me. She just stepped back and let me in, and her hands were shaking. Her apartment is small and tidy and full of plants. On the coffee table was a shoebox. Brown cardboard, soft at the corners from being moved a lot. She sat across from me on the rug and pushed it toward me with both hands like it was hot. She said, "Before you open it, you need to know I only got these last spring, after she died. Her neighbor mailed them to me because my address was on the inside of the lid." I lifted the lid. It was full of envelopes, maybe 30 of them, all addressed to me in the same looping handwriting, all postmarked from a town I had to look up on my phone because I had never heard of it, and it was 40 minutes in the other direction from where I live now. She had been a 90-minute drive from me my entire adult life. None of them had been opened. Every single one was sealed. My mother had written them and never sent them. She had stacked them, year after year, birthday after birthday, in a shoebox under her bed. Chloe said our father told her, when she was 10, that if she ever told me Mom was alive, he would take me away from both of them. She said she believed him until she was old enough not to, and by then I wouldn't speak to her. She sat on the floor and reached for the first envelope. I sat on Chloe's rug and opened the one on top. It was dated the year I turned 7. The handwriting was careful, like she was trying not to scare me. It started, "My Vanessa, I hope you are still humming the song I taught you on the trail. I am humming it today so that somewhere you can hear it." I read it out loud because Chloe asked me to. Halfway through, I remembered the tune. I have been trying to remember it for 30 years, and it came back like it had been waiting in a drawer the whole time. I hummed a few notes, and Chloe put her face in her hands and finished the rest of the bar for me. We are going to read the rest of them together this week. One a day. That's all I can take. I don't know yet what I'm going to do about my father's memory, or about the years, or about the trail. I think next Sunday Chloe is going to hike it with me. I think we will both turn back at the boulder the way we were taught, and this time it will be because we want to, and not because someone told us we had to. Thank you for being on the other end of the screen while I figured this out. I'll be okay. We will. One commenter, PT with a dog, said, "Fellow PT here, also a solo hiker. The fact that it only shows up when you hike that loop and not the others is the part I can't shake. On to the next one." Facebook keeps surfacing memories from a wedding I never had. I'm 29, female, and I work the night shift on a med-surg floor at our county hospital. I get off at 6:30 in the morning, drive home with the sun coming up behind me, and let myself into the basement of my mother's house, which is technically my apartment because I pay her $400 a month for it. There's a kitchenette, a mattress on a platform, and one window at ground level where I can watch the neighbor's cat hunt birds. My brother Nolan lives 40 minutes away with his wife. I see him at Thanksgiving. The only person I really talk to is Hannah, who charts next to me from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and lets me complain about my mother in the supply closet. I have never been married. I have never been engaged. The longest relationship I've had since nursing school was 4 months with a respiratory therapist named Devin, and it ended because he moved to Phoenix. That is the entire romantic history you need. I tell you all this because 3 weeks ago, Facebook started showing me memories from a wedding. Not someone else's wedding, hers. The first one popped up on a Tuesday morning. I was in bed, scrolling with one eye open, waiting for the melatonin to hit. The little blue banner said, "On this day, 6 years ago." Underneath it was a photo of me. I am wearing a white dress. Not a gown, nothing huge, just a simple white T-length thing with a lace collar I do not own and have never owned. My hair is pinned up the way I wore it for my cousin's quinceañera in 2017, so I know my face. It is absolutely my face. I'm holding a small bouquet of cream roses, and I am laughing at something off camera. There is a man next to me. He's holding my left hand in both of his. He's maybe 30, sandy hair, a navy suit, a kind, slightly crooked smile. I have never seen him before in my life. I would remember him. He is the kind of handsome you remember. Behind us, sitting in a folding chair against a wall I recognize as the hallway outside the county clerk's office, is my mother. She is crying. Real crying, with a tissue pressed to her mouth, the way she cried at my grandfather's funeral. The caption is written in my voice. It says, "6 years ago today, I married my best friend, and I have never been happier." 214 likes, 41 comments. People I went to high school with telling me congratulations, telling us we looked beautiful, asking where we were honeymooning. I never posted it. I never saw a single one of those notifications come in, and I have absolutely no memory of standing in that hallway, in that dress, holding that man's hand. On to the next one. I did not go to sleep that morning. I sat up against the headboard and started scrolling backwards through my own profile, which I almost never look at because I mostly use Facebook to see what my aunts are doing. There is an anniversary post every single year. 5 of them, going back to the one that triggered the memory. Each one a different photo. Each one in my voice. Year 3 is a picture of 2 coffee mugs on a porch I don't recognize, captioned, 3 down, forever to go. Year 4 is the 2 of us at what looks like a state fair, his arm around my shoulders, my head tilted into him like I belong there. There are check-ins. A steakhouse in Knoxville I have never been to, a brewery in Asheville, a little Italian place 40 miles from here that I had to Google to confirm was real. Every one of them tagged with him. Brandon. His name is Brandon. No last name visible from my end, just a profile picture of a black lab on a dock. And there is an album. 72 photos titled Gatlinburg, Our Honeymoon. Cabin in the woods, hot tub on a deck. The 2 of us at an overlook with the Smokies behind us. I am wearing a sweatshirt I have actually owned. That one is mine. I bought it at Target in 2019. I scrolled until my hand cramped. I recognized rooms. My mother's living room, decorated for Christmas, him on her couch with a beer. My brother Nolan in a charcoal suit and a boutonniere, standing next to him at what is unmistakably the wedding. Nolan is smiling. Nolan does not smile in photos. And the man in every single picture was a stranger. I tried to change my password. Settings, security, the whole routine I make my mother do every 6 months because she clicks on everything. Facebook asked to send a code to the recovery email on file. The email it showed me was blurred except for the first letter and the domain. The first letter was an M. My email starts with an O. I closed the laptop. I sat in the basement with the lights off for I don't know how long. Then I went upstairs. My mother was at the kitchen table in her robe doing the crossword. I poured myself coffee and sat across from her and tried to sound like a person asking a normal question. I said, "Hey, weird thing, do you remember any of Nolan's friends named Brandon? Like from years ago. Tall guy, sandy hair." She did not look up right away. She finished writing a word. Then she set the pen down very carefully, lined it up parallel to the edge of the newspaper and said, "Why are you asking me that, Olivia?" Her voice was not her voice. It was the voice she used on the phone the night my grandfather went into hospice. I said, "No reason, somebody at work mentioned him." She said, "Well, I don't," and stood up and took her coffee into the other room and turned the television on loud. I have not slept properly in 9 days. I clock in at 7, I push through, I clock out, and I lie in that basement listening to her footsteps directly above me, walking from the bedroom to the kitchen to the bedroom, and I wonder how long she has been awake before me, and what she is keeping the volume up to drown out. On to the next one. I brought my phone into work last night. 3 a.m. is the dead hour on our floor, when the call lights go quiet and the only sound is the ice machine. Hannah and I sat in the break room with our feet up, and I slid the phone across the table and told her to scroll. She did not say anything for a long time. She zoomed in on the first photo. Then she zoomed in again, on my left hand, and turned the screen toward me. She said, "Olivia, that is your grandmother's ring. The one with the little garnet. Your mom showed it to me at Easter." She was right. I knew the second I looked. It sits in a velvet box on my mother's dresser, inside her jewelry box, under a layer of clip-on earrings. I have seen it 100 times. In the photo, it is on my finger as a wedding band. Hannah kept scrolling. She opened the comments under the anniversary post and stopped on one I had missed because the woman's name meant nothing to me. A profile picture of an older woman in a sun hat. The comment said, "Sweetheart, please come up to the cemetery before the weather turns. I planted the new yellow ones for him." Below it, a reply, posted from my account, that said, "I will, Mom, I promise, this weekend." I have never called anyone Mom except my own mother. I read that reply 3 times. I had not written it. Somebody had been writing back to this woman, as me, for years, calling her Mom, promising her cemetery visits. There were dozens of these threads, going back to 2018. I stepped out of the break room and called Nolan from the stairwell. He picked up on the fourth ring, and I could tell from the background noise he was awake. I said his name, and then I said, "I need to ask you about Brandon." The line went quiet. Then he said, "Do not call me about this," and hung up. I called back twice. It rang straight to voicemail. Somebody had been living a whole second life on top of hers. I came home this morning and I did not go upstairs. I did not say hi. I locked the basement door from the inside, which I have never done in 8 years of living here, and I started writing this. I am posting because I do not know who to trust in my own family, and I need outside eyes on this. I have screenshots of everything saved to a drive that is not connected to my email. I have not changed the password yet because I do not want whoever is running the account to know I am looking. My day off is Thursday. I am driving to the county clerk's office the second they open. One commenter, Midnight Lurker, said, "The fact that the caption was in your voice is what got me. Someone studied how you write. Please tell me you changed your password before posting this." Cold Brew, Cassie commented, "Please do not confront anyone in your house until you are out of that house. Whoever is doing this has access to documents in your name. That is not a prank. That is a long con." One commenter, Dead Mall Archivist, said, "Veterans Benefits widow fraud is a federal charge. If this guy was military and someone has been collecting on him in your name for years, you are sitting on something very big and very dangerous. Lawyer first, police second." The poster responded with, "You are closer to it than you know. I did not put this in the post because I was still hoping I was wrong, but the clerk told me the death benefits have been direct deposited every month since 2018. Not to my account, to one I have never opened. I have a meeting with a legal aid attorney Thursday morning before my shift." 2 days later, she posted the update everyone had been waiting for. "I went to the county clerk. He exists. I was at the clerk's office at 8 on the dot Thursday morning. I told the woman behind the counter I needed a certified copy of my own marriage license, and I gave her my full legal name and my date of birth. She typed for maybe 20 seconds and said, 'Oh, here you are,' and printed it. There were 3 names on the paper. Mine, a man named Brandon Whitaker, and my mother, signed in the witness line in her own handwriting, the same loopy capital R she puts on every birthday card. The wedding date is in June of 2018. There is a death certificate cross-referenced at the bottom of the file. Brandon Whitaker, deceased, August of 2018. Single vehicle accident on a state road I have driven 100 times. He was 31. The clerk also pulled, very gently, a record that said, "Survivor's annuity, active, payable monthly." I do not remember signing that license. I do not remember a funeral. I do not remember a June in 2018 at all. I was 22. I had just finished my prerequisites. The summer is a blank patch in my head that I had always blamed on burnout. I sat in the parking lot of the courthouse for 40 minutes before I could drive. When I got home, my mother was sitting on the top step of the basement stairs in her robe, with her hands folded in her lap, like she had been waiting since I left. She did not ask where I had been. She said, "Sit down, honey." So I sat on the bottom step and looked up at her. She told me Brandon was Nolan's best friend from the reserves. She told me I dated him the summer I was 22 and that I loved him, really loved him, and that when the truck went off the road, she found me in the hospital parking lot at 4 in the morning, unable to speak. She said the grief made me sick for almost a year, and that she and Nolan agreed, between them, that I did not need to carry the paperwork on top of it. So they filed it for me. My signature is Nolan's. Her signature is her own. The benefits started arriving 4 months later, $1,100 a month, into an account Nolan opened in my name with a mailing address at his house. It paid the mortgage on this house. It paid for my last 2 semesters of nursing school. She said, "I never spent $1 of it on myself, Olivia. I swear to you on your grandfather." The Facebook account, she said, was for Brandon's mother, the woman in the sun hat. She said the woman had nobody else, that she would have died of it, that keeping up the anniversaries and the check-ins was a kindness. She has been logging in as me from her phone in the kitchen for 7 years. I asked her if I really do not remember Brandon, or if they made sure I would not. She started crying and did not answer. I am writing this from a motel off the interstate. I have my laptop, my scrubs, and the certified copy of the license folded in my purse. I have not called anyone yet. I do not know what I am supposed to do with a dead husband I do not remember marrying. RN Burnt Out commented, "Fellow nurse here, pull your own medical records too. If someone filed a marriage in your name, they may have used your insurance, your taxes, everything. Check your Social Security earnings statement tonight." Someone in the replies added, "I am sorry, but the detail about your mother crying in the background of the photo is making my skin crawl. She knows that photo exists. She has seen it." Midnight Lurker chimed in, "She is not crying in that photo. She is performing. Look at the hands of the people around her. Nobody is comforting her. They already know the bit." I called the Veterans Benefits fraud line from the motel parking lot the next morning. The woman on the other end was very calm and very fast. She took the case number, asked me to email the certified license, and told me an investigator would be in touch within 72 hours. He called in 41. I cooperated fully. I gave them the bank records, the screenshots, the recovery email that was not mine. My mother was arrested on the Tuesday afternoon while I was at work. Hannah picked me up from the hospital so I would not have to drive past the house. Nolan turned himself in 2 days later on the advice of a lawyer and took a plea that traded testimony for no prison time. My mother did not get that offer. She is awaiting sentencing. The estimate is 18 months, plus restitution that will follow her for the rest of her life. The house went on the market last week. I moved my things out in 2 trips. I have a room now in a small rental on the east side of town with Hannah and another nurse from labor and delivery. There is a window that opens. There is a dog I did not have to ask permission to pet. Brandon's parents were notified by the investigator. They had been writing checks for flowers on a grave they thought I was visiting. His mother left me 4 voicemails in the first week. She was not angry. That was almost the worst part. She kept asking in this thin, shaking voice, was he in pain at the end? Did he say anything? Did he ask for me? I do not have answers for her. The summer she is asking about is a closed door in my head, and I have spent 6 weeks now trying to push it open and finding nothing on the other side. No face, no voice, no first kiss, no fight, no funeral. Just a flat gray patch where a year of my life used to be. My therapist says the brain can do that when a person who is supposed to protect you tells you, over and over, that something did not happen the way you felt it. She says it might come back. She says it might not. The phone rang again last night while I was making pasta. Brandon's mother. I let it ring. I stood at the stove with the spoon in my hand and listened to it go all the way through to voicemail, and then I listened to the silence after, and I thought, I owe her something. I just do not know what it is yet. In the comments, someone wrote, "Was there a honeymoon album too?" Memory posts usually run in clusters. If there are vacation photos with this guy, you have never been to those places either, and someone went there and staged them. One comment pointed out, "Was there a honeymoon album too?" Memory posts usually run in clusters. If there are vacation photos with this guy, you have never been to those places either, and someone went there and staged them. And the original poster replied, "Yes, Gatlinburg, 72 photos." The investigator pulled the metadata, and the pictures were taken on my mother's phone, on a trip she took with my aunt the year after he died. The man in them is a stock model whose face was pasted in. I have not been able to look at them since I found that out. On to the next one. I, 30 years old, asked about a missing girl from my town, and now my partner is begging me to drop it. Some towns don't forget, they just agree not to remember out loud. I'm 30. I cut hair for a living, and I've lived in the same mountain town my whole adult life. Population just under 2,000 if you count the cabins up the ridge, which nobody really does. I share a small house off the main road with my partner Tyler. We've been together 4 years. He works for the county doing something with permits that he can never quite explain at parties. and I run 2 chairs at the only salon in the valley. You learn things cutting hair in a town this size. Whose marriage is quietly ending, whose kid got pulled out of school, whose mother is sick and not telling anyone yet. People talk while you wash their roots. What they don't talk about is louder. Nobody talks about Emily. Emily was 17 when she disappeared from her own graduation party, 12 years ago this June. Reservoir party, bonfire, the usual. She walked off to find a sweater and never came back. Search dogs, divers, helicopters for a week. Then nothing. Her parents moved away the following spring, and the house sat empty until someone from out of state bought it for cash. I was 18 when it happened. I knew her face from the yearbook the way you know any face from a small school. I didn't know her. But last week I couldn't sleep, and around 2 in the morning I did something stupid. I went on the little local history forum the old-timers use to argue about logging roads, and I made an account and I asked the question, just plainly, does anyone actually know what happened to Emily that night? By morning, the thread had no replies. Her inbox, though, was not empty. 3 private messages by sunrise, all from accounts with names like Trout Creek 72 and Ridgeview Dad. Different wording, same content. Delete the thread. You don't want to do this. Please, for your own sake, take it down. I almost did. Then around 4 in the afternoon, a brand new account, registered that same day, no avatar, no history, posted the only public reply the thread ever got. It was a photo. My porch. The wind chime my mother gave me, the chipped blue planter, the welcome mat with the corner curled up from the dog next door. Taken in daylight. Taken today. The shadow of the railing said late afternoon, maybe an hour before it was posted. The caption underneath was one line. She was asked the same questions and she stopped asking. Tyler's truck pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later. I closed the laptop. I have not opened it since. I want to be clear about what I did and didn't do that evening. I did not run out and check the porch. I sat very still on the couch for what felt like 10 minutes and listened to the house. Then I got up and locked the front door, the back door, and the side gate, in that order, the way I do when I'm home alone after a horror movie. I looked through the front window without lifting the curtain. The porch was empty. The street was empty. The light was already going thin. I didn't tell Tyler when he got home. He came in the way he always does, dropped his keys in the bowl, kissed the top of my head, asked if I'd eaten. He smelled like the inside of his truck and a little bit like the diner coffee he buys on the way back from site visits. Completely normal. I almost convinced myself I had imagined the whole thing. We ate at the kitchen table. Pasta, the jar sauce I doctor with garlic. He talked about a permit dispute over a barn conversion. I nodded in the right places. Then, between one bite and the next, without looking up from his plate, he said, "So why are you so interested in Emily all of a sudden?" He said her name the way you'd say a coworker's name. Casual, slightly bored. I have never spoken her name out loud in this house. I have never typed it on a device he has access to. I made that account on my phone, on the salon Wi-Fi, at 2 in the morning while he was snoring. I laughed. I heard myself laugh. I said something about a thread on the history forum, said the old-timers were arguing about the class of 2013, and her name came up and I got curious. I asked him to pass the Parmesan. He passed the Parmesan. He smiled at me. He said, "You know that stuff just upsets people, right?" I said, "Yeah, you're right, it's stupid, I'm done with it." He said, "Good." She agreed. He believed her. Or pretended to. She is no longer sure which is worse. I did not sleep. I lay on my side and watched him breathe and let 4 years run through my head like a tape I was finally allowed to rewind. The hike up to the reservoir trailhead, our second summer, when he turned us around at the fork and said the bugs were bad that way. The bugs were not bad. I remember swatting nothing. The wedding we went to where my old lab partner from senior year was a bridesmaid, and Tyler suddenly had a migraine before the reception and we left. The bonfire night at his friend's cabin where someone started telling a ghost story about a girl in the water and Tyler stood up to get more wood and the story never finished. The way, any time I've mentioned a name from my graduating class, he's nodded and immediately asked what I want for dinner. It could be nothing. People steer conversations. People get headaches. I have spent the last 4 years being loved by this man. He has held my hair back. He has driven through a blizzard to pick me up from work. But he knew her name was in my head, and I never put it there out loud. In the morning, I'm going to the salon and I'm going to act normal. I'm going to ask Brooke, who's been cutting hair next to me for 6 years, if she remembers Emily. Brooke went to school with us. Brooke was at that party. I'll know something from her face before she opens her mouth. I'll post again tomorrow if I can. I drove to work the long way. I don't know why. I think I just wanted to see who was on the road at 7:30 in the morning, like I'd recognize a face that didn't belong. Everyone belonged. The plow guy waved, the mail truck waved. I waved back like a hand puppet. Brooke was already there, sweeping. She looked up and smiled and said, "You look like garbage. Did you sleep at all?" And I said no, and she handed me a coffee without asking. She knows I drink the cheap gas station hazelnut, no sugar, splash of oat milk. That is not a fact you can find on the internet. My first client was Mrs. Halverson. Blowout. Easy. While the dryer was going, my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. New private message on the forum. Username Deer Valley Quiet. It said, "Your shift ends at 4 today. The blue Subaru parked behind the post office is yours. Be home before dark." I almost dropped the round brush. I went to the back room and tried to open the original thread. I wanted to delete the whole thing, my account, my history, nuke it. The site loaded. The thread was there. The button was there. I hit delete. A little gray box popped up that said, "You do not have permission to remove this content. Please contact a moderator." I'm the one who posted it. 2 more messages came in while I was staring at the screen. One named the diner I sometimes go to on my lunch break. One just said, "He is a good man. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." She came back out to the floor, smiling. Brooke was rolling color foils and humming. Amber waited until the song on the radio changed. I said it quietly while I was passing her the clips. I said, "Hey, weird question. Do you remember Emily? From our year. The one who—" I didn't even finish the sentence. The blow dryer was off, sitting on the counter, and Brooke knocked it onto the floor with her elbow. Her face went the color of the towels. She bent down to pick it up and stayed bent down a beat too long. When she stood up, she would not look at me. She said, very quietly, "Not here. After close. Don't say her name in front of the window. The window faces the street. Across the street is the hardware store. The hardware store is owned by a guy who graduated 3 years ahead of us. He was standing on the sidewalk with a coffee. He was looking at our window." Brooke turned the dryer back on. We finished the foils. A walk-in came in for a trim. I cut her hair, and I do not remember a single thing about her. I am writing this in my car in the parking lot on my lunch break. I have an hour and 40 minutes until close. I do not know if I am going to make it to that conversation, and I do not know if I want to. One commenter, Pinecone Drifter, said, "The porch photo is what got me. They wanted you to know they were close enough to walk up the steps." One commenter, Brooke in Isle, said, "If your coworker really told you the truth, she just risked her life for you. Whatever you do next, do not let anyone know she talked." Hazelwood Runs commented, "Please tell me Tyler was not at that party. Please. The math on his age lines up, and I am sitting here praying it doesn't." And the original poster replied, "He was 18 that summer. I did the math at the kitchen table last night while he was asleep upstairs, and I have not been able to look at his hands the same way since. He keeps asking if I am cold because I won't stop shaking." She came back the next morning with an update nobody who'd been reading wanted to see. "Tyler saw my drafts folder this morning. I write everything in a notes app on my laptop before I post it. Timestamps, who said what, the messages I'd screenshotted from the forum. I had it all open in a tab when I got in the shower. When I came out, he was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop turned around facing him. He had made coffee, 2 mugs. He looked up at me and he didn't yell. I almost wish he had. He just looked tired and so sad, like a man who'd been holding his breath for 12 years and finally exhaled. He said, "Amber, please stop." I asked him what I was supposed to be stopping. He closed the laptop. He said, You know what. He said, "It's not what you think, but it's also not nothing. And if you keep going, people who love you are going to have to make choices they don't want to make." I asked him who he meant by people. He didn't answer. He kissed my forehead, picked up his keys, and went to work. He left the second mug of coffee in front of me. It was still hot. I went to the salon. I told Brooke we had to talk, now. She locked the front door, flipped the sign, and pulled the blinds. She had been waiting 12 years for someone to ask her without flinching. She talked fast, like the truth was burning her tongue. Brooke sat on the floor with her back against the shampoo bowl. She wouldn't look at me. She said it the way you'd read off a list. Half our graduating class was at that party, plus the year above, plus some of the year below. Tyler was there. He'd come down from his cousin's place for the weekend. That's how I'd never placed him in our class photos. Emily was drunk. Someone dared her to swim out to the floating dock in the dark. She didn't come back up. They waited. They walked the shore with flashlights. They found her around 3 a.m, tangled in the rope under the dock. And then, Brooke said, somebody, she would not say who, said if we call this in, we are all going down for serving her, for the drugs in her system, for being the last ones to see her. Our scholarships, our jobs, our parents. So they pulled her out, drove her up the logging road, and put her somewhere I do not want to know about. They went home. They made a pact. They have kept it. The history forum, Brooke said, is them. The regulars are them. The accounts that messaged me are them. They are not a group of strangers. They are people whose kids I cut hair for. They are watching to see if I become the loose thread they have to cut. She looked up at me finally. She said, "Amber, your boyfriend was the one who tied the rope. I am so sorry." She unlocked the door. My next client walked in for a root touch-up. I smiled and got her into the chair. My hands did not shake. I do not know whose hands those were. A top comment reads, "Small towns don't keep secrets, they keep accomplices. Every adult who was a teenager in that town has a piece of this, and none of them want their piece pulled out." One comment pointed out, "The detail about every road out being driven by someone from that party is what made my stomach drop. That isn't paranoia, that's geography." One commenter, Tin Roof Lullaby, said, "The forum members with no post-history messaging you privately is textbook intimidation. They are testing whether you will scare quietly or scare loudly." Someone else added, "And the answer they want is quietly. Loud means an accident on the highway. Quiet means she gets to keep cutting hair on Main Street as long as she never types that girl's name again." I tried to leave that night. I want you to know I tried. I packed a duffel bag in the bathroom with the fan on so Tyler wouldn't hear the zipper. 2 pairs of jeans, my passport, the cash I keep in a tampon box, my charger. I waited until he was asleep. I left a note on the counter that just said, "Early shift, love you," and I got in the blue Subaru at 4 a.m. There are 3 roads out of the valley. There is the highway south, which the plow guy keeps clear in winter and patrols in summer because he also runs the tow company. There is the pass road east, which the delivery driver takes twice a day for the grocery. And there is the county road north, where the sheriff's deputy lives in the second house on the right, and his porch light burns all night. I took the highway south. 2 miles past the gas station, a tow truck was pulled over on the shoulder with its hazards on. No flat tire, no car being towed. He waved at me as I went past. Friendly. The kind of wave you give a regular. I watched him in the rear view pull out behind me and follow at exactly my speed for 4 miles until I lost my nerve at the fork and turned back. I tried the pass road. There was a delivery van parked sideways across the narrow part where the guardrail is missing, hood up, driver leaning on it, drinking coffee at 4:30 in the morning. He smiled at me too. I turned around. I did not try the 3rd road. I came home. Tyler was awake in the kitchen with the light on, like he'd been waiting, like he'd known. He didn't ask where I'd been. He poured me coffee. He said, "You must be exhausted." In the morning, I deleted the thread. The button worked this time. I made him eggs. I kissed him goodbye at the door, and he held my face for a second too long and said, "Thank you." I drove to the salon. I am writing this from the back room between a perm and a beard trim. I'm going to leave this post up for as long as I can. They'll see it eventually. Maybe they already have, and they're letting me have this one because they know it doesn't matter. Maybe you reading this is part of what they want, a final exhale, the loose thread tying itself off. If I stopped posting, I didn't stop because I wanted to. I stopped because somebody asked me the same questions, and I stopped asking. Deleted account commented, I grew up 2 towns over from a place like this. A girl drowned at a bonfire, and 40 years later, the same families still sit on the same church pews, and nobody says her name. A user named Pinecone Drifter wrote, Amber, if you can read this, blink the salon lights twice tonight at 9, and I will know you saw it. On to the next one. I, 29 female, found myself in the background of the Airbnb photos I booked. So I need to write this down before I lose my nerve because I'm sitting on a train right now and my hands are shaking too hard to keep scrolling. Quick context. I'm 29, I'm a speech therapist, and I'm halfway through a 6-week clinical placement at a university about 3 hours from where I actually live. They put me up in a graduate dorm, single room, shared kitchen down the hall. It's fine, it's quiet. I don't really know anyone here besides the supervising clinician and a couple of the other placement students. And most nights, I just eat cereal and grade session notes until I fall asleep with the light on. By week 4, I was completely fried. The kind of tired where you cry in the parking lot for no reason. So last Tuesday, I caved and booked an Airbnb about 2 hours further out, in a small lake town I'd never heard of. One of those listings the algorithm pushes at you when you've been doom scrolling at midnight. Cute little A-frame, wood-paneled walls, a reading nook by the window, $94 a night. I clicked book before I could talk myself out of it. That was the plan. Quiet weekend, tea, a book, nobody who knows my name. She opened the listing one more time on the train, just to look at the pictures. I was about an hour into the ride when I pulled the listing back up. I wanted to see the reading nook again. That's the part I'd been thinking about all week. The first photo is the living room. Couch under a window, throw blanket bunched up, a woman curled into the corner with a book open on her knees. I'd seen this photo 3 times already and never really looked at her. Hosts do that, right? They get a friend to sit in the shot so it feels lived in. Except, she's wearing a mustard yellow rain jacket, the kind with the wooden toggles instead of a zipper. I have that jacket. I'm wearing that jacket right now on this train. I bought it at a thrift store in college, and I have literally never seen another one like it. I zoomed in. Her phone is face down on the armrest next to her. The case has a chip out of the top left corner shaped like a little triangle. My phone case has that exact chip. I dropped it on a tile floor at my cousin Ethan's birthday last spring. I zoomed in further. Her left wrist is turned toward the camera where she's holding the book. There's a thin white scar across the bone, maybe an inch long. I got that scar when I was 14, climbing a fence behind my middle school. It is me. It is 100% me, sitting in a house I have never been inside, in a town I had never heard the name of until last Tuesday. I just checked the listing history. It was posted 8 months ago, and the train was still moving toward it. Okay. Let me back up, because for about 10 minutes I sat there telling myself I was losing it. I screenshotted the living room photo, zoomed in until the pixels broke, tried to convince myself the scar was a smudge on the screen, the chip in the case was a reflection, the coat was just a popular color. People have lookalikes. I once had a coworker tell me I had a doppelganger who worked at the public library 2 towns over. It happens. So I went back to the listing and forced myself to look at every single photo, slowly, the way you'd look for a mistake in someone else's clinical notes. Photo 4. The kitchen. There's one of those staged shots with a cutting board, a lemon, a kettle on the stove. Above the counter, there's a small round mirror, the decorative kind. In the mirror, blurry and out of focus, there is a figure in the doorway, yellow coat. One hand up at the collar, fidgeting with a toggle. I do that. I do that constantly. It's a tic. I don't even know I'm doing it half the time. Photo 7. The porch. Wide shot of the front of the house, supposed to show off the porch swing. Right at the edge of the frame, half cut off by the railing, is a woman's elbow in the bottom corner of a yellow sleeve. Same coat. stepping out of frame like whoever took the picture had asked her to move. 3 photos. 3. I opened my texts and sent all the screenshots to Jessica. We've been friends since freshman year of college. She's seen me drunk, sober, sick, dumped, the whole catalog. I typed, no context, just please look at this. Does this look like me to you? Be honest. She wrote back in under a minute. Laura, what is this? That's you. That is 100% you. I know your hands. I know that coat. What am I looking at? I told her where I'd gotten the photos from. She stopped typing for a long time. Then just, do not go to that house. And then the conductor said the name of her stop. I tried to think, really tried. Have I ever been to this town? Have I ever driven through it, had a layover, dated someone from here, gone to a wedding here? Nothing. The name didn't even sound familiar before last Tuesday. I had to look up how to pronounce it. The train started slowing, trees thinning out, the little brick station coming into view. I had a backpack with 3 days of clothes and a paperback I'd been meaning to start. My return ticket was for Sunday evening. Here's the part I'm embarrassed to admit. I thought about it. I really thought about just staying on the train, riding it to the end of the line, getting on the next one back, eating the cost of the booking, telling my supervisor I caught something. And then this other voice in my head went, Laura, you are a grown woman. You are exhausted. You have been staring at a screen for an hour. It's a coincidence. The host probably uses stock-style staging photos he bought off someone. You are going to walk into a perfectly normal cabin and laugh about this on Monday. I got off the train. The rideshare dropped me at the end of a gravel driveway. The house was up a small slope, tucked back in the trees. Exactly the kind of place that photographs well. Wood siding, little porch, no neighbors in sight. The lockbox was on the railing where the listing said it would be. Code worked first try. The door swung open into a quiet, slightly stuffy living room, and I stood in the doorway for a long time, because something was wrong, and it took me a few seconds to figure out what. The couch was the same couch from the listing. Same shape, same gray fabric, same arrangement under the window. But the wall behind it was wrong. In the photo, the wall is a soft cream color with a piece of framed art over the couch. Here, the wall is a pale sage green, and there's nothing on it. The window itself is the wrong proportions. The light coming through it falls on the floor in a completely different shape than it does in the picture. It was like walking onto a stage set built from memory of a different room. I pulled my phone out and opened the listing side by side with what I was looking at. Then I started walking. The kitchen has a cutting board on the counter and a kettle on the stove. Same staging as the photo. But the cabinets in the listing are white shaker. These cabinets are oak. There is no round mirror above the counter. There has never been a mirror above this counter. You can see the paint is unbroken. The bedroom is where I actually stopped breathing for a second. On the nightstand in the bedroom photo, there's a glass of water on a coaster. The glass is one of those cheap pint glasses with a faded logo from a 5K I ran 4 years ago. I own that glass. It is sitting on my nightstand at the dorm right now, or it was when I left yesterday morning. Folded on the foot of the bed in the photo is a knit throw blanket, mustard and cream, with a little burn mark near one corner from when I dropped a candle on it in undergrad. My blanket, my burn mark. In the corner of the desk in the office photo, half cut off by the frame, is the corner of a textbook. Augmentative and Alternative Communication, 5th edition. The corner is bent in exactly the way my copy's corner is bent, because I dropped it down a stairwell in October. None of these things are in this house. I have checked. I have opened every drawer in the bedroom. The nightstand has nothing on it but dust and a phone charger that isn't mine. The photos in the listing were not taken here. They were taken in my dorm room. She posted this much from the bathroom floor, and the comments started arriving faster than she could read them. One commenter, Midnight Brake Lights, said, "The wrist scar detail made me physically recoil. That's not a coincidence. That's someone who has studied you up close." Toaster Strudel commented, "Call the platform's trust and safety line, not the regular support. They have an emergency channel. Do it before you do anything else. One commenter, Perimeter Check, said, "Speech therapist here too. We have university IDs that open way more buildings than people think. Check if anyone you've worked with has campus access." And the original poster replied, "You're right, and it's worse than that. My placement supervisor signed off on giving me an after-hours card that opens every clinical building and the grad dorm wing. Only 3 people have access to the request log. One of them is my ex's cousin. I didn't even know he worked there until last month." About 40 minutes later, she edited the post with a second title at the top. "He has a key to my dorm, and he's coming here now." I went back to the host profile while I was still sitting on the bathroom floor. The display name is just an initial and a last name I don't recognize. The account has 2 other listings, both in towns I've never been to, both with the same staging vibe. 4 reviews total, all 5 stars, all from accounts created within a week of each other. I tapped the Contact Host button. The little form at the bottom shows the host's verified email address, partially redacted. It ends in the exact handle of an email I haven't used since I was 25. An old college account I stopped logging into after I broke up with my ex, Cody, 4 years ago, because he knew the password and wouldn't stop reading my messages. I never deleted the account. I just left it. He has been holding on to that email for 4 years. He used it to build a host profile. He used the host profile to list a cabin he doesn't own, with photos he took inside my actual dorm room, and he routed me to it. I went back through the listing photos one more time. The angles. Some of them are from up near the ceiling, some are from down near the floor by the door. There is one wide shot of the bedroom that has to be taken from the closet, looking out, because the closet in my dorm faces the bed at exactly that angle, and I have literally never stood in there with a camera. I don't think anyone has, except him. My little cousin Ethan came up to visit me at the dorm about 3 weeks ago. We ordered pizza. At one point, he stopped chewing and looked around and said, "Your room is way too quiet for a building this big. You sure nobody else has a key?" I laughed at him. I told him grad dorms are like that. I am not laughing now. I'm going to call the campus police line in a minute. I just needed to write this down first in case I stop being able to. The thread tipped over. Hundreds of comments in minutes, almost all of them saying the same name. Oat Milk Apocalypse commented, "Please tell me you didn't go inside the house. Please." A top comment reads, "I keep going back to the coat. He waited for a day you wore it. He's been picking days." A top comment reads, "The fact that he made a host account with your OLD email means he's had access to your stuff for years. This isn't recent. Get out of that Airbnb now." Hannah with an H chimed in, "Agreed. That email was probably the recovery option on a dozen things she's long forgotten about. He's been quietly stitching her into a fake life and waiting for her to walk into one of the rooms he built." Her last post in the thread came in fragments, like she was typing with one hand. "I am writing this from the bathroom. I locked the door. There is no window in here. I am sitting in the tub because the wall is between me and the hallway. After I posted the update, I went back into the bedroom to grab my backpack. I was going to walk down the driveway to the main road and call somebody from there. I told myself, just get the bag, don't stop, don't look at anything." On the nightstand. The same nightstand that was empty when I first checked it 20 minutes ago. There is now a key sitting on it. Brass, scratched, with a little blue rubber cover on the top. It is the key to my dorm room. I know it is mine because I scratched my initials into the rubber cover with a paperclip during a boring training in September. The initials are right there. L.M. Next to the key, folded once, is a piece of paper. I have not opened it. I cannot make myself open it. I took a picture of it instead, and I keep staring at the picture like that's safer. I went back to the bathroom. I locked the door. I opened the Airbnb app and there is a new message from the host, sent 4 minutes ago. It says, "So glad you made it. I'm on my way over now to check you in personally. Won't be long." Smiley face. I checked the app for the host's location. The little pin is on this road. It is not far away. I called the campus police number while I was typing this. They put me on hold. I am still on hold. I called 911 on my other line and they're sending someone, but the dispatcher said the nearest unit is about 18 minutes out. There is a car. I can hear a car on the gravel. It's slowing down. Please, somebody tell me what to do. Do I stay in here? Do I try to go out the back? The note. Should I read the note? I keep thinking if I read it, I will know who he is for sure, and I am not ready to. The post cut off there. No edits since. Someone in the replies added, "The angles thing is what gets me. If the photos are from your dorm, that means he was lying on your floor, standing on your desk, getting shots a normal person in your room would never get." Quiet Kettle commented, "Whoever this is wants you to feel found. The key on the nightstand is a message, not a mistake." And on that note, on to the next one. The hiring portal at my old job keeps reapplying me to positions in a town I've never been to. 24, male. Some doors don't close just because you walk out of them. I'm 24. I work as an archivist now, freelance mostly, scanning estate papers for a law firm downtown. I share a condo with my younger sister Grace while she finishes her last year of nursing school. That detail matters later, so hold on to it. 8 months ago, I left a regional library system. Good job on paper. I won't say why I left because the why isn't the story. The story is that when I walked out, I assumed their internal hiring portal would deactivate my profile within the standard 30 days, the way HR onboarded us to expect. It didn't. For the first couple months, I got the usual automated pings. New opening in cataloging, new opening in digital preservation. I clicked unsubscribe twice, sent one polite email to a generic HR address, and forgot about it. The emails kept coming, maybe one a week, always for the same branch. A branch I had never worked at, in a town I had never set foot in. I'll call the town Hadley Forks, because that's what the emails called it. I'll be honest, I ignored them. My inbox has a folder called Old Job that I haven't opened since June. The notifications dropped in there and died quietly, and I went on with my life. Grace teased me about it once, said I was being headhunted by a ghost. I laughed. Tonight that folder pinged again, and for whatever reason, I opened it. He shouldn't have opened it. The email was different, not a job alert, a confirmation. "Congratulations, Caleb. Your interview for the position of lead archivist at the Hadley Forks branch has been scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th at 10 in the morning. Please arrive 15 minutes early. Parking is limited. Your interviewer will be Mr. D. Harlan. We look forward to welcoming you." I never scheduled an interview. I never applied to that position. I have not logged into that portal in 8 months. And the name on the interviewer line, Harlan, is not a name I recognize from anyone I worked with. I sat with that for about 10 minutes. Then I did what any normal person would do. I opened a map. Hadley Forks is on the email. It's in the address block, it's in the signature, it's even in the little embedded calendar invite. Real street, real zip code, real phone number with a real area code for our state. So I typed it into the county GIS site we used at work all the time. The site I trusted more than Google. Nothing. No municipality by that name. No unincorporated community. I tried the state's official place name registry. I tried 2 historical atlases. I tried the postal lookup tool, which spit back the zip code as valid, restricted use. Grace is asleep on the couch. The email is still open on my laptop. The town exists on the letterhead of my former employer and absolutely nowhere else I can find. I'm going to dig into this tomorrow. I'll post what I learn. On to the next one. He logged back in. That was his first mistake. I couldn't sleep. Around 2 in the morning, I made coffee, sat back down, and went to the portal directly. I typed in my old work email and a password I haven't used since March, just to confirm I was locked out and could escalate to HR in the morning. I wasn't locked out. It let me in on the first try. The dashboard loaded like I'd never left. My headshot in the corner, my employee ID, my work anniversary counter ticking up like I was still on payroll. I went to my profile and just stared. It wasn't my profile anymore. Or it was, but someone had been keeping it warm. There were skills listed I had never claimed. Conservation of restricted holdings, chain of custody documentation for state records, patient file digitization, level 2 clearance. I have never touched a patient file in my life. I'm an archivist for old land deeds and church registers. I wouldn't know a patient file from a parking ticket. Then I opened the cover letter attached to my profile. It was 3 paragraphs long, dated last week, addressed to the Hadley Forks branch. It was written in my voice. The cadence I use, the way I open with a small joke, the way I always close with "grateful for your time." Things nobody at that company would have studied closely enough to mimic. But there it was, signed Caleb, with my cell number at the bottom. The references section had 3 names. 2 I didn't recognize. The third was Derek, my old supervisor. His direct line, his personal email, not the company one. 8 months of applications he never sent. I clicked the activity log. The system had been busy on my behalf. 47 auto-submissions since March, every one of them to Hadley Forks. Lead archivist, record specialist, night custodian of holdings, whatever that is. Some of the postings had the same job number repeated, like the position kept reopening and the system kept shoving me back at it. I went to settings. I scrolled to the bottom. There's a button there called Deactivate Profile and Withdraw All Pending Applications. I clicked it. A little spinner started turning. I waited. It spun for a full minute. 2. I refreshed. The spinner came back. I tried a different browser. Same spinner. The button is real. It just doesn't do anything. I messaged Marcus on the app he and I still use for fantasy football. He was online. I kept it short. Hey, weird question. Did your old profile ever stay active after you left? Mine is still auto-applying to that Hadley branch. The little typing dots came up immediately, then stopped, then came up again. He sent 2 words. Stop applying there. I started to type back that I'm not applying. That's the whole point. Before I could finish, another message from him slid in under the first. Seriously. That was it. He went offline. I sat there reading those 2 messages over and over, and then, with my email tab still open in the background, a new notification slid down from the top of the screen. Same sender, same format. Congratulations, Caleb. A second interview has been added to your calendar. Morning came. The questions didn't get smaller. I called the county clerk first thing before I lost my nerve. I said I was an archivist doing background research on regional library distribution. Mostly true. I asked about Hadley Forks. The woman on the line went quiet for a beat, then pulled it up. She said Hadley Forks is technically an unincorporated service address, not a town in any practical sense. No residential parcels, no registered voters. The zip exists because there's a state facility out there that needs mail delivery, and the address block was carved out for staff and contractors. She said it like she was reading from a card she'd read many times before. I asked about the library branch. She said there is no public library at that address. There's a records annex attached to the facility. Restricted access, staff only. She actually used the phrase, "you wouldn't be visiting." I thanked her and hung up. Then I went into my old work email, which is still archived on my personal drive because I exported it the week I quit. I searched for Hadley. 3 hits. The third one was Derek, my old supervisor, forwarding my resume to a contact at that branch. The forward went out 2 days after I gave notice. 2 days. I was still working out my last week. His note above my attached resume said, and I'm quoting it exactly because I screenshotted it, "Good fit, quiet, no local family." I read that line maybe 10 times. I read it until the words stopped making sense, and then started making a different kind of sense. I'm not quiet. I'm not loud either, but Derek and I had whole conversations about my sister, about us splitting the condo, about Grace finishing nursing school. He knew I had family. He just knew I didn't have the kind that would ask questions fast. He looked at Grace asleep on the couch. The room felt half its size. I'm posting this from the kitchen because I don't want to be in the bedroom right now. Grace has an exam in the morning. She came home late, fell asleep in her scrubs with her phone on her chest. I keep looking over at her and then back at this screen. I have not replied to Marcus. I have not opened the second interview email. The portal tab is still loading that deactivate spinner in the background. It has been loading for 9 hours. If anyone has dealt with anything like this, with an old employer that won't let go of you, I would really like to hear it before I do anything stupid. A user named Bryce H. wrote, "Archivist for a state facility usually means medical records or commitment paperwork. They want someone quiet who won't ask why a file is sealed. No offense, but you fit a profile." A user named Deleted My LinkedIn wrote, "Call Derek from a number he doesn't recognize and ask him directly. His pause will tell you everything." A user named Fluorescent Moth wrote, "The fact that the town barely shows up on current maps is the part that's bothering me. Have you tried pulling older county records? Sometimes places get absorbed administratively, but the institution stays." And the original poster replied, "3 days later, he came back with the records request results. I filed a personnel records request the morning after my last post. State law gives former employees the right to their full file, including any internal correspondence about their placement or transfer. I expected pushback. I got a fat PDF in 72 hours, which is when I knew something was wrong on a whole different scale. They wanted me to see it. The file had 2 sections I'd never been shown while employed. One was titled Candidate Profile Notes. It read like a dating site bio written by someone who didn't like me very much. Age 24, male, single, no dependents, no nearby parents. Sister, nursing student, transitional living arrangement. Low community footprint, travels rarely, compliant with documentation tasks, does not push back on procedural ambiguity." The second section was a placement log, not just mine. The system had auto-included a comparison appendix, like it expected the reviewer to want context. 10 archivists hired into the Hadley Forks Annex over the last decade. I read all 10. Every single one fits the same profile. Early to mid-20s, no spouse, no children, most with one sibling far away or an estranged parent. One had a grandmother as her only listed emergency contact. The hire dates are staggered, roughly one every 12 to 14 months. The separation dates are blank. Every one of them. 10 in a row. Every forwarded application in that appendix has Derek's signature at the bottom. His personal sign-off, not the HR template. The same 3-line note, copy-pasted with the name swapped. Good fit. Quiet. No local family. I went back to the county records the clerk had pointed me to. The Hadley Forks Annex is not a library branch in any normal sense. It's a closed records facility attached to a state institution. The institution houses long-term involuntary commitments. The annex stores their files. Staff assignments there are described in the State Employment Handbook with one phrase I had to read twice. Indefinite duration, on-site residency required. Staff don't leave on normal schedules. Staff don't leave. Grace doesn't know any of this yet. Her exam was yesterday. She's heading to a friend's lake place tomorrow morning for the weekend, and I haven't decided whether to tell her not to go or to beg her to take me with her. That night, the package arrived. I opened the welcome packet. Grace is gone for the weekend. A manila envelope showed up at the condo around 6. No tracking sticker, hand-addressed in blue pen. My full name, my unit number, no return address. Grace had already left. Inside was a welcome packet. Glossy folder, branch letterhead, the works. A start date 2 weeks out. A keycard photo placeholder with my old headshot already printed in. A housing assignment, single occupancy, on site. A checklist for arrival. And on the inside cover, an emergency contact form, already filled in. Grace's full name, her cell number, her nursing school. A line I never filled out on any document anywhere, because I keep that information off paper on purpose. The packet ends with a printed line at the bottom of the welcome letter, in a slightly different font from the rest. We've taken the liberty of preparing your space. We understand transitions are easier when arrangements are already in motion. I haven't called Derek yet. I will tomorrow. I'm posting this now because I want the record to exist somewhere that isn't on their server. Quiet Hallway commented, "The emergency contact thing is what would send me. How did they get your sister's name? That's not a database autofill, that's a person." A user named Third Shift Nina wrote, "I worked HR adjacent for a hospital system once. Profiles don't forget to deactivate. Someone is keeping yours warm on purpose." Bryce H. writes chimed in, "Agreed, and the auto-apply framing is the giveaway. Real recruiting systems don't submit on your behalf without a click-through. Whoever's doing this wants a paper trail that looks like Caleb keeps saying yes." He finally called Derek. I called Derek from my own number, in the middle of a workday, sitting at the kitchen island. He picked up on the second ring like he'd been waiting. He sounded warm. He asked how I was settling into freelance life. He asked about Grace's exams. He used her name without me bringing her up first. I told him I knew. I told him about the auto applications, the cover letter in my voice, the welcome packet, the personnel file appendix with 10 archivists and no separation dates. I told him I'd seen the line he wrote on my forward and that I knew what it meant. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, very evenly, "Caleb, some placements suit certain temperaments. That's all I'd say about it. The annex needs people who can sit with quiet work for a long time. Not everyone is built for that. I thought you might be. I was trying to do you a kindness." I asked him to deactivate my profile. He said the system was largely automated and he didn't have direct access anymore. I asked him who did. He said, "The packet you received is yours to do what you want with. We won't push." And then he wished me well and hung up. 2 weeks went by. No emails, no alerts. The deactivate spinner in my browser tab finally timed out and threw a friendly error. I started sleeping again. I almost convinced myself Derek had quietly pulled a string somewhere, that the warmth in his voice had been actual warmth, that the whole thing was the bureaucratic afterbirth of a place I'd already left. Then, yesterday afternoon, I came home and there was a second envelope on the mat. Same blue pen, same handwriting. Heavier this time. I brought it inside. I set it on the kitchen counter. Grace had left that morning for a long weekend at her friend's lake place. I didn't open the envelope. I just looked at it. I can see, through the little address window, the top edge of a form. Emergency contact line. I can read her name from here. I haven't filled in that field on any document. Anywhere. The envelope is still on the counter. Grace gets back Sunday night. I don't know if I should open it before then, or wait, or drive it to a lawyer in the morning, or burn it in the sink. I'm posting this so that if anything strange happens this weekend, the timeline is here. If you don't hear from me by Monday, the branch is called the Hadley Forks Annex. Someone please write that down. Moss Over Brick commented, "Please do not drive out there to just look. Every post like this ends with someone going to just look." Someone in the replies added, "Caleb, the second envelope means they're not asking anymore. Get Grace on the phone before she drives back. Now." That's it from me tonight. Thanks for sticking with the channel all the way through, and if any of these crawled under your skin, a quick subscribe helps more than you know. I, 33 years old and male, found out my best friend has been writing me letters pretending to be my dead mother for 2 years. I'm 33. I restore paintings for a living, mostly consulting work for a small conservation school a few blocks from where I live. My apartment is in one of those weird converted dorm buildings the college sold off back in the 90s. Thin walls, narrow hallways, a kitchen the size of a closet. I live alone. I have since my mom died. Her name was Megan. She passed about 2.5 years ago, slow and ugly, the kind of dying that gives you time to plan things. About 3 weeks after the funeral, my oldest friend Aaron showed up at my door with an envelope. Said he'd found it in a box she'd left him, with instructions to hand it to me when I seemed ready. It was a letter, in her handwriting, telling me she was proud of me and to eat something green that week. I cried for an hour, and I believed it, because why wouldn't I? My mother was the kind of woman who would absolutely pre-write letters from the grave. Aaron told me there were more, that she'd left a small stack with him, that he'd give them to me one at a time when the moments felt right. And he did. Every few weeks for 2 years. Her handwriting, her phrases, the way she called me kiddo only in writing, never out loud. The way she dotted her I's with these tiny, lazy ovals. I kept every one in a shoebox under my bed like a kid hiding candy. Then came last night. Last night I had a bad one. My younger brother Logan hadn't called in almost a month, and I'd been spiraling about it all day. Around midnight, I poured too much whiskey and sat on the floor in front of the framed photo of Mom on my bookshelf, and I talked to her out loud. I said, and I remember this word for word because I was embarrassed even as it left my mouth, "Logan won't pick up the phone, Mom. He acts like I'm the one who reminds him you're gone." I cried myself empty and went to bed. This morning there was an envelope slid under my door, her handwriting on the front. Inside, 4 lines. The last one read, "Don't be angry with Logan, kiddo. He just doesn't know how to look at you without seeing me." I have read that sentence maybe 40 times. Aaron is the only person who knows where the spare letters supposedly come from. Aaron was not in my apartment last night. Nobody was. Whoever wrote this was close enough to hear me crying on my kitchen floor, and he hadn't even opened the closet yet. I want to walk you through what I did after I picked the envelope up off my floor, because I need someone to tell me I'm not losing my mind. First, I checked every window. There are only 3, all locked, all painted shut basically, the kind of old casement windows you need a crowbar for. The front door was still deadbolted from the inside. The hallway outside was empty, just the same scuffed linoleum and a flickering fluorescent at the far end. I asked the woman across the hall if she'd seen anyone. She hadn't. Then I sat on my kitchen floor and pulled the shoebox out and read every letter again. From the beginning. 2 years of them. And things I'd swallowed as sweet coincidences started looking like something else. A letter from last spring said she hoped I was happy with the shorter hair. I'd cut my hair myself in the bathroom the week before. No photos, no mention to anyone. A letter from November talked about how she used to love that nature documentary about octopuses, the one with the diver. I had watched exactly that show, alone, 2 nights before that letter arrived. A letter from August referenced a long talk with your brother. Logan and I had spoken on the phone the previous Sunday for almost an hour. She had been dead for over 2 years when she wrote those. And there was one part of the apartment he had never once looked inside. My apartment is shaped like a shoebox itself. Front door, narrow living room, then the kitchen at the back, maybe 6 feet wide. Behind the kitchen, there's a door I have never opened. The building manager told me when I moved in that it was an old storage closet from the dorm days, that it had been sealed off, that the key was lost. There's a strip of paint sealing the gap. I never thought about it. It was just a wall to me. I called Aaron. He's the only person I have ever told about the letters. He picked up on the first ring like he'd been holding the phone. I told him about last night, about the line about Logan. I heard him breathe out slow, almost relieved, and he said very gently, "Bring the letters over. We'll figure it out together. Don't read any more tonight." That should have comforted me. It didn't. Something about how unsurprised he sounded. I hung up and went to my desk drawer and pulled out a birthday card Aaron gave me when I turned 30. 3 years old, his handwriting, big and looping. I laid it next to one of my mother's letters under the lamp. He dots his I's differently. His capitals slant the wrong way. But the lowercase g, the tail of it, hooks back on itself in this exact lazy little knot. Hers does the same. I had never noticed it on either of them until they were side by side. I'm not bringing him the letters. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm not bringing him the letters. I told Aaron to meet me at the coffee shop on the corner instead. Public, fluorescent, loud espresso machine. I needed witnesses, even strangers. He sat down across from me, and I slid the birthday card and one of her letters across the table without saying a word. He looked at them for maybe 3 seconds before his whole face collapsed. He cried like I have not seen a grown man cry. He said he started doing it about a month after the funeral because I had stopped eating, stopped working, stopped answering the door, and he didn't know how else to reach me. He said the first letter was supposed to be the only one. Then I texted him a photo of it pinned to my fridge, and he couldn't take it down. He said he had been studying her old cards for years, that he'd practiced her G and her M and the way she signed off with "Love always, your mom," instead of just "Love, Mom." He apologized maybe 30 times. And here's the part I hate. I was relieved. For about 90 seconds, I was so relieved it wasn't a stranger, wasn't a ghost, wasn't me losing my mind, that I almost reached across the table to thank him. Then my stomach turned over, and I had to go to the bathroom and dry heave into a sink. When I came back, he had a manila envelope on the table. "These are the ones I hadn't sent yet," he said. "It's over. I swear on her, it's over." 11 more letters, all in her handwriting, all dated for the next 6 months. I took the envelope. I left. I didn't hug him. He didn't ask me to. I got home, sat in the dark, and opened a new tab. It's almost 3 in the morning, and I cannot sleep. So I'm typing this out for strangers, because I genuinely don't know who else to tell. Logan would lose it. I don't have anyone else. Aaron was the person I would have called about something like this. I keep coming back to the letter from this morning. He confessed to 2 years of forgeries. He didn't really explain that one. He just said he was paying close attention and looked at the floor. I let him say it. I wanted to be done sitting across from him. I don't know what I want from you guys. Tell me I'm right to be furious? Tell me I'm wrong to be a little grateful? Tell me how I'm supposed to look at a man I have known since we were 7 years old and see whatever this actually is. Someone in the replies added, "The detail about him referencing something you said out loud in your apartment is what made me physically put my phone down. Please tell me you've already left that building." A top comment reads, "My grandmother used to say the worst betrayals wear the face of the person you'd run to about the betrayal. I'm so sorry, Garrett." One commenter, North Stare, said, "Please check the closet, the crawl space, anywhere with a door you stopped opening because it's stuck. I have a feeling in my gut about this one." The reply to that was, "You were right, and I wish you hadn't been." The storage closet off the kitchen had a broken latch I'd been meaning to call maintenance about for almost a year. I'll explain everything in the update, but yes, he was in there. He had been in there a long time. 6 hours later, he was back with an update. They found what Aaron kept in the closet. The comment about the closet didn't let me sleep. By 4 in the morning, I was standing in my kitchen with a kitchen knife, scoring the paint along that sealed door. It came open easier than it should have. The latch was broken from the inside. It's not a closet. It's a narrow service space, maybe 7 feet long, 3 feet wide, that runs along the back of my kitchen wall and connects to a maintenance corridor I didn't even know existed in this building. Apparently, most of these converted dorms have them. Mine had been sealed with a strip of paint and a lie from a building manager who no longer works here. Inside, a rolled-up sleeping bag, still warm. A camp lantern, switched off but the bulb hot. 6 empty protein bar wrappers in a neat stack. A water bottle. A small pillow with a pillowcase I recognized from Aaron's old apartment. And then, on a milk crate he'd been using as a desk, 3 of my grief journals. The ones I keep in the bottom drawer of my nightstand and have not touched in over a year. Annotated. In his handwriting. Little notes in the margins like, "Use this phrase," and "She would have said it warmer," and, next to an entry about Logan, "Remind him she forgives him." Photocopies of every letter she ever wrote me, including ones from when I was a kid that I keep in a tin in my closet. A spiral notebook with page after page of practice signatures. Her name over and over. My name in her handwriting. The word kiddo written maybe 400 times. I called the police. I called Logan. I sat in the hallway outside my own apartment because I could not be in there. The officer who came out said it looked like someone had been using the space, on and off, for at least 4 months, maybe longer. They took Aaron in around 6 in the morning. He didn't resist. He asked them, very politely, if he could bring the notebook. He told the officer, and I am quoting because I will never forget it, "Garrett was forgetting me. He talks to her every night. He doesn't talk to me anymore." Like that was an explanation. Like that made it even. Someone in the replies added, "I work in question document examination, If you still have the letters and any genuine samples of your mother's writing, do not throw any of it out. Bag them separately. Varnish and Vinegar commented, "The fact that he had access to your grief journals means this started long before the letters. He was building towards something." Someone in the replies added, "Wait, Aaron. As in the Aaron who gave the eulogy? I went to school with both of you. I'm going to be sick." Someone in the replies added, "The eulogy detail just made this 10 times worse. He stood up and spoke about her in front of everyone and then went home and started rehearsing her voice on paper. That's a level of planning that didn't start at the funeral." A week later, he came back one more time. "It has been about a week. I owe you all a real ending, or as much of one as I have. Aaron was taken into psychiatric custody that morning and is still there. He has not been charged with much yet because nobody is quite sure what to charge him with. Trespass, definitely. Stalking, probably. The detective working it told me, very gently, that what Aaron did doesn't fit neatly into any one box on a form. He kept using the word fixation. He said Aaron had been writing about me since college in notebooks they found at his apartment. Not romantic, something stranger. He thought of me as his, and he watched my mother take up more space in my head as she got sick, and he could not stand it. When she died, he didn't lose his rival, he inherited her. I moved out of the dorm building the next day. I am 33 years old, and I am sleeping on Logan's couch because I cannot be in a room alone yet. Logan has been wonderful. He had no idea about any of this, and the guilt is eating him. I keep telling him he didn't do anything wrong. I think I am also telling myself. I cannot open mail. Even a utility bill makes my hands shake. Logan opens everything for me now and reads it out loud in his own voice. We are going to be doing this for a while. 2 nights ago, I took every real letter my mother had ever written me, the ones from when I was at art school, the birthday cards, the recipe she sent me once on an index card, and I put them all in a metal bowl on Logan's balcony, and I burned them. I could not tell her hand from his anymore. I could not look at her without seeing his. He took that from me too, and I would rather have nothing of hers than something I cannot trust. I don't know what the lesson is. Maybe there isn't one. I just know I am never again going to find comfort in something written down, because I will always be wondering whose hand was really holding the pen. Someone in the replies added, "The cruelty of choosing your dead mother as the costume. That's not a confused friend, that's someone who studied exactly where you were softest." One commenter, Quiet, said, "I cannot stop thinking about you reading those at your kitchen table, believing they were her. He let you have that for 2 years knowing." That's the last story for today. Thank you for staying with me through all of it. And if these found a place with you, hit subscribe so the next ones find you too.